Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another awesome episode of On the Throttle with Jacqui Van Ham and my buddy Josh out here bringing you all of the breaking news going on out here in motorcycles and power sports. We've got a great episode for you today. And speaking of episodes, Josh, as always, any of you out there that want to watch any of our previous episodes or go check out all of the breaking news going on out here in motorcycles, make sure you head over to our parent website, motorcyclepowersportsnews.com. You can watch all of our previous episodes and more over there on the internets. For today's show, I am talking about some interesting technology and a part of motorcycling, a motorcycling community that you might not expect it from. And BMW is mixing apples and oranges. And Josh, what do you got going on in your neck of the woods?
So Kawasaki dropped it, and when I say dropped it, you could say either the mic or you could say 16 brand new models, and then Beta is doing something electrifying, so we're going to talk about those two.
Ooh, I'm excited. I can't wait for that story, but we're all going to have to wait after this word from our sponsor.
For all of your motorcycle ATV and UTV oil requirements, be sure to run Pen Grade 1. The unique base oil cut utilized in the original green oil and the enhanced levels of anti-wear additives provide strong protection while reducing internal friction for increased horsepower output under the most demanding conditions. Pen Grade 1 is proud to be made in the USA.
Huge thanks again to our friends over at Pengrade. So, as I mentioned, Josh, my first story for today, I thought this was really interesting. It's a little bit of technology that is being developed for a segment of motorcycling that you might not expect. And that is the folks over at Kymco. That's right, Kymco, known mostly for their development of scooters, especially here in the United States, is released, we found on the internet out here, a little bit of renderings for some technology that is currently being developed. Let's go ahead and jump on in to this story. So the folks at Kymco, as I mentioned, Kymco, known for their scooters here in the United States, is whipping up and working up a little bit of radar assistance, which looks set to land on some of its scooters in the future. So scooter and lightweight motorcycle manufacturer Kymco has applied for patents relating to adding radar assistance and possibly blind spot detection to some of its bikes. So the renderings that you see on your screen are actually these patent drawings, to be more specific. You can start seeing what appears to be in the rear section of this scooter, which looks ding-dong, just like the scooter above it, which is a Kymco. It definitely appears to be some sort of blind spot and or radar assistance. The reason I thought this was really interesting is because this kind of technology doesn't usually exist or trickle down to scooters because they are kept at a little bit different price point. These types of technology usually exist with some of the bigger players, of course, like the Tiger Triumph 1200 Rally and GT Explorer, the Multistrada V4, and KTM 1290 Super Adventure. While blind spot detection and radar assisted cruise control are commonplace on those big budget bikes, it's much less common on smaller, more budget friendly bikes, especially unheard of on scooters. That said, this lightweight urban commuter would be the perfect place to have this type of technology. I think this is so clever. And I wanted to bring this up because, Josh, I wanted to pick your brain about what you think about this kind of technology existing out here on scooters and more small displacement commuter type machines. Is this a good idea? Is this the future? Or should this just be existing on all machines anyway?
It's interesting you say that because of the fact that, to me, when I see so much of this, when you see scooters like in foreign countries like India and that, I mean, that blind spot detector would be going off the entire time. But here in the US, there's so many places where people will be riding this where it's going to give them that added confidence. So to me, stuff like this, as long as they can keep their price point, because price point is one of their sales things, as long as they can keep their price point, I am all for it because the more we can involve stuff like this, the better. The price point is, like you said, it's the tight thing because we're used to seeing this on the Ducatis, on the BMWs, on the high-end KTMs. Kymco did not come up as my first thought when you said we're going to talk about radar today. So I think it's a
I
great
know.
thing, but it's one of those
Yeah.
things where it's we've got to make sure it comes in at that price point. And once again, if we
Yeah.
can bring more people in because they're more comfortable, all for it.
It's a win-win, right? Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up on today's show. I thought that this was really interesting, but bravo to Kymco. I'm here for it. I'm one of those folks that love the little like alert lights on my car when I'm driving to let me know when someone's in my blind spot. I'm here for it. I love it. I think this is just a super smart move. You're right. The bottom line is what's going to, be the real deal breaker or deal maker of this, but I think this should be available and accessible to everybody. So I want to bring it up on today's show. Bravo to the folks over at Kymco, and I hope to see this on many, many other machines. Josh, what do you got going on for your first story?
So we alluded to this before, and we kind of made some of our predictions, and some of those predictions came true in terms of what Kawasaki was planning on dropping, because they said there were like 16 new or changed models coming out. And today we're going to review some of that. They came out just a while ago. We're going to review some of that. We're going to go over 9 of them, of which there's a whole plethora of things going on here. So the first group that we are going to talk about is the Mule group. So there is now the Pro FXT 1000 Platinum Ranch, which is a mouthful. There is the Pro FXR LE, and then the Pro FX. Now, the Pro series is exactly what you think. Those are much more commercially geared vehicles. They are meant to be hauling linemen out to that line that is way out in the middle of nowhere, or a gas well or something of that nature. Very cool vehicles. Like I said, all of these, they are 1,000 cc's while they're 999. I'm going to round up just because, the other thing that they have with these, right, they raised the ground clearance on them. The Platinum Ranch is obviously the decked out version. It can hold up to 6 people, which is a boat ton of people in that thing, and you still have plenty of payload in the bed there. That one itself starts at $23,399. You guys know darn well that when I saw that thing, I was going to go to the Kawasaki website and spec it out with every accessory that I possibly could from Kawasaki. And I was able to spec it out at right around $37,613 with all the bells and whistles like cab, bed liner, everything like that. But I tell you what, if you're driving this thing in the dead of winter, 30 miles out to service a cell phone tower or a line or a gas well or something like that, it all makes darn good sense. So in the next slide, we actually had some really cool stuff, and there's a bit of a revival on one. The top one is one that I actually, even though it's not dirt oriented, I really, really like this one. This is the 2024 Eliminator. This is the 451cc motor. It's the parallel twin out of the Ninja 400, of which I got a ride on one this weekend. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant motor. I absolutely love it. This obviously is tuned a little bit more for torque. The nice thing about this is it is a 28.9-inch seat height. It gives you a nice upright riding position. There's an 18-inch front, so slightly bigger front wheel to give you a little bit more of that stability. There is a 16-inch rear wheel. It uses a trellis frame, so it's nice and light, but still really strong, confidence-inspiring. It uses the Rideology app for phone connectivity. There is an assisted slipper clutch on this, so if you downshift, if you boneheaded downshift, it's not going to punish you by kicking the back end out towards the nearest guardrail. On top of that, the SE and one of the base models, you can get ABS with it. There's also a headlight cowl on the SE model, two-tone paint, and then a waterproof USB. To me, the cool thing about this 100% stays true to the Eliminator name. A lot of the Eliminators used Superbike engines and put them in a more cruiser-style frame that was more, let's say, daily driver friendly, and that is exactly what this bike does. I absolutely love it. Great job from Kawasaki on it. Once again, let's get more people over here, and that is the way to do it. Now we're on to my realm here. We're talking dirty stuff. The KX450 and the 450X. Very similar bikes, both brand new. The X is the version that is meant for the off-road stuff. The KX is meant for the track more. Both of them updated engine with a brand new cylinder head. Rideology connectivity app once again, so that way you can change. There's 3 different maps available that you can change, or there is also a handlebar mounted switch on these for you to change different fuel maps for whatever you want. Traction control is on this. It's using Brembo brakes. There is an all-new aluminum frame, some new bodywork, and tool-less air filter access. To me, once again, Kawasaki, has always done pretty well in the dirt. They're stepping that game up. They're doing some incremental changes here to keep that going. These are new bikes, but there's some parts brought over. I still like it. I'm still here for it. Last but definitely not least, we are going to talk about the ZX-6R KRT Edition, the KLX300, and the KLX300 SM. The KRT Edition, it's essentially graphics, but if you want to be Jonathan Ray without the work or without needing to spend the money on the ZX-10, this is how you can do it. I always love Kawasaki's green. It's bright, it's obnoxious. We share those things in common. So I like that paint job that they have on it. The KLX 300 and 300 SM, everything that I saw, there's some mild bodywork changes with this. I didn't see anything engine-wise or anything otherwise, but as someone that has a KLX 250S sitting in the garage, that really the only difference is 50 cc's, this is a phenomenal bike. They really didn't need to change a whole heck of a lot. The updated bodywork definitely does help. I am glad to see it. That is a mouthful. What do you think, Jacqui? I think they did a good job.
I think they did too. I have to admit, I did not see the Eliminator coming. I think that was such a great Easter egg, a great little surprise in there. I think it's a sharp-looking bike. I love it. I think it's wonderful. I think it's going to be at a great price point. It's a 450. Again, we keep talking about these smaller displacement bikes, whether we are bringing new people into motorcycling, or you need a bike for around town, or heck, I think it's a hoot to put smaller displacement machines through their paces. I love smaller bikes. Yep. That's just my own opinion. However, the rest of these weren't too many terrible surprises. I thought that Supermoto was super slick. I love that gray that they did, something a little different. Yeah. And I'm here for it. You're right. It was 16 machines. Bravo for narrowing it down to kind of a greatest hits between power sports and motorcycles out there. And I knew there was going to be real dirt bike and dirt stuff heavy coming from you, Josh, for sure.
Of course.
So for my next story for today, BMW is absolutely mixing apples and oranges in a delicious version of possibly the world's fastest tour machine. But first, we've got a word from our sponsor, Heidenau Tires.
The road can throw a lot at you, but you can depend on Heidenau Tires to see you through it. Quality, made in Germany. For more info, go to HeidenauTires.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks again to Heidenau Tires. So, as I said, BMW is mixing together apples and oranges. And what do I mean by that? Well, it must be one of the cult bikes, odd ducks over at BMW, and that is going to be the 1000XR. If you are not familiar with this machine, this has been in the BMW stable for a handful of years. It is definitely an odd duck, and I mean that with all terms of endearment. I do love mishmash odd bikes. This is just kind of one of those things that became a cult bike. Because is it a sport bike? Is it a tour bike? Is it kind of an upright adventure type bike? I mean, who knows? It's a little bit of everything. And when they released it, people were left really scratching their heads until they threw a leg over it. And then, like I said, it developed quite a following. Well, this year for 2024, they are going back to the drawing board and they are coming up with a new M package 1000XR. They've been teasing out this bike for the last handful of weeks. Indeed, it was even spied at the Isle of Man TT a handful of weeks ago, with Mr. Peter Hickman himself throwing a leg over it, putting it through its paces a little bit out on the TT course. And there were some behind-the-scenes spy photos of it floating around. Well, now they've released BMW have released another batch of photos in anticipation of the official launch. This is still not official launch photos, so they released released a handful of pictures. I will tell you right now that the pictures they released as part of their press release this last week were very, 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 very dimly lit, very spooky, very sexy, sexy photos. I went ahead and did the low-tech version of literally just cranking up the brightness on them, and that way we could look at them here on the show, because that way you can see some of the details of this bike. I love the new styling of it. Again, this is the upcoming 2024 M1000XR. Let's jump into some of the details of this very cool apples and oranges bike from BMW. For more than 50 years, BMW has been creating special M-badged vehicles. The M-badged vehicles is over on the automotive side. It has slowly transferred over to the motorcycle side, however, and they've released several versions of M-badged bikes. This year alone, they've released a handful of them because not only is it the 50th anniversary of M, but it's the 100th anniversary of BMW Motorrad as a brand. With the M1000XR prototype, they're still calling it a prototype, but I mean, look at that thing on your screen. That is a finished bike. We're providing a first preview of the third BMW Motorrad M model in our anniversary year. Says Dominic Blass, product manager. We have developed the M1000XR based on the current S1000XR, S1000RR, and M1000RR as a long-distance sport bike with super sports riding dynamics for the road as well as for the track. Now that sentence to me says this bike literally does everything. He's saying it's track, it's tour, it's sport bike. I mean, what does this thing not do? It slices, it dices, it does everything. Similar to the S1000XR that it's based on, the M1000XR is a jack-of-all-trades motorcycle that takes the best attributes of a sport bike and mashes them with a sport tourer to create a hybrid capable of tackling twisty roads with amazing performance, but with long-distance riding comfort thrown into the mix. This is loaded with BMW's 999 inline-4 engine with that shift cam variable valve timing that will be the star of the show. If we speculate, we can predict it is roughly the same spec as the M1000R's power plant, which has a 13:3:1 compression ratio and an increased redline compared to the base models. However, the claimed output is also going to be right around 205 horsepower. Josh. As was the case with the M1000R, adding aerodynamic winglets to the MXR gives BMW engineers the freedom to unleash the bike a bit and maximize the capability of the engine. So this is the new XR. Very interesting specs going on over here. Again, like I said, it is predicted to have over 200 horsepower and achieve top speeds of approximately 174 miles per hour. This bike combines everything I want off the circuit, performance so incredible that you won't want to get off. And that is a direct quote from Mr. Peter Hickman, who also had a real bang-up week over at the Isle of Man TT, setting a track record and I believe going home with 3, if not 4 titles. So that is what's coming from the folks at BMW. Josh, what do you think about the upcoming M1000XR?
It's interesting because these bikes, I find them so interesting because BMW found this niche of rider that wants to tour a little bit, but they do not want to give up their sport bike. And in the same sense, they can no longer get into the head down, butt up riding position. So they said, look, we're going to build a chassis that puts you still a little more upright, and we're going to leave the rest of it kind of as sport bike and go have at it. To me, once again, I mean, as someone that kind of also has that car, that BMW M car background, for them to bring it over, it makes sense. That's the same thing other manufacturers have done with SPSs and S's and SPs. And I mean, I get while they're doing it, they're making these, what once was a homologation special, this is for this. And someone's going to buy this bike. They're going to love this bike. At 200 horsepower, they say you need the winglets to keep the front tire down. I get it.
Yeah, this bike, however, I think is also a really excellent head-to-head contender for the Ducati Multistrada. I can see it absolutely going head-to-head for that title as well, or for that type of bike in that category and in that space. That M, however, she's going to cost you. This usually adds quite a bit to the bottom line for this awesome machine. I am guesstimating this is probably going to end up hovering around $30,000. Josh, what do you got to say about the XR? Would you put one of these in your garage? You always love to ask me that question.
I would. I'm willing to bet you're shooting low on the price, to be honest with you. So,
Yeah.
if you have $30,000 for me, I'll chip in the rest and put it in my garage. Definitely.
Yeah, you're probably right. This probably is going to be a little closer, maybe like 35. Anywho, that is what's coming from the folks at BMW. This is supposed to be launched like right now, like real soon. I have
Nice.
a sneaking suspicion, just me personally, that this very well might be launched at the 100th anniversary, which is taking place at the very beginning of July in Berlin this year. That is where they're hosting their international rally. I have a feeling they're going to be launching a handful of machines there, and I think this is going to be one of them. The rumor is that these will be in dealerships, however, in fall of 2023. Josh, what you got going on for your second story today?
Speaking of fall of 2023, October of this year will bring us the 2024 Beta Explorer, which this looks a little different. And to me, if you
What?
kind of stay in this e space, look out, Sir Ron, because Beta's coming for you. This is a 100% electric e-motobike. It is a collaboration between Beta USA and Apollo. What's the cool thing that you can see here is that this has a, first off, removable battery. It is a 35 amp hour capacity. It takes 1 minute to remove. They're saying it charges in about 2 hours, maybe give or take a little bit more, with just a regular 110 outlet. That to me is really cool. Now there are 3 ride modes with this. There is the casual mode is what they're calling it, which you can get 50 to 100 miles. They get 30 to 60 miles in medium mode. And then there is a mode that you can use for 10 seconds at a time called rocket mode, which I'm hoping you can use that 10 seconds at a time a lot, because that is where I would have it probably most of the time. This is typically, it's roughly 30% smaller than your typical dirt machine. That makes it easier, I mean, to get into. It's simpler, it's less intimidating. Anyone can get on it, and especially if you stick it in the casual mode, you could be pretty sure that they aren't going to launch it at the scenery if they're test driving your bike to see if they like it. To me, there's also a reverse on this, which is something that you don't need often, and you don't want the extra weight that comes from it. But with this being electric, it's just a button.
Yep.
So there's no added weight. I absolutely love that. There are six position adjustable foot pegs, so it fits all sorts of people, all shapes and sizes. Like I said, 74 volt battery, charges in about 2 hours. The removable part of that is what I really like. This has a forged aluminum frame. They say the speed on this will be about 40 miles an hour up on the top end, which is plenty of get along. 33.8-inch seat height. It weighs only 150 pounds. So literally, pick this bad boy up, throw it in the back of the truck, throw it in the back of the van, and take it absolutely anywhere and ride for 30 to 60 miles. Get a spare battery if you want, if you're worried about that. To me, that is absolutely awesome. And on top of that, the price point to me is pretty good with this. It is $4,890 plus $189 shipping is all. To me, I'm seeing a lot of wins in this, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see this in a lot of trucks that are headed to the track, just as a way to get around even. To me, I think this is a huge win, and the fact that it's red from Beta, you know, I kind of like them anyways. To me, I think this is a good thing. As soon as I saw the removable battery, I knew you were going to be looking at one, right, Jacqui?
Oh gosh, yeah, no. I mean, we just cannot keep the word beta out of your mouth. It seems like the past handful of weeks, right? They've been having some real big moves here in the United States and the North American market in general. They've got, I think, like a new headquarters out on the West Coast. We talked about that story. We've just been talking about that an awful lot. I think this is such a slam dunk. It has several of my most favorite things about e-bikes going on for it, including, as you've already mentioned multiple times, removable batteries. Yes. Bring spares with you. Take it upstairs. Take it to your hotel. Do whatever you want. Charge it. Plug it in. I think that is just absolutely genius. Being under $5,000 is interesting. I, of course, wish it was less, but that is an awful lot of bike. This is an awful lot of very legitimate e-motorcycle platform type bike versus e-bike, more bicycle type bike. To be in this e-moto space for sub 5, I'm still going to go ahead and give them a high five and a little bit of applause. I think this is a heck of a great looking bike. This is a yes from me. I would absolutely snatch one of these up and throw it in the back of my van for less than $5,000. Absolutely. And just rock and roll on it, or use it like you've already mentioned as a pit bike. Heck yes. Bravo, Beta. Good job. Good job. So if you want to check out more stories about Beta and all of the things going on out here in motorcycles and power sports, make sure you go check out all of our previous episodes. They live forever and ever out here on the internet, whether you're watching over on YouTube, on Facebook, or over at our parent website, motorcyclepowersportsnews.com. We appreciate each and every one of you tuning in every single week, clicking, liking, sharing, subscribing, do all the things, do all the stuff. We appreciate it, and we will see you all next week. Ride safe, everybody.